So next up, we're going to talk about the benefits of social enterprise. And this is going to be presented by Danielle Norris of Savenco. I'm going to pull up her presentation. All right, so you should see your slides up now.
Hello, everybody. So we're going to talk a little bit about social enterprise or mission-driven business, and then also throw in a little bit of that business planning and great practices that Crystal began with. So again, I'm the CEO of a company called Savenco, and we help business leaders and companies grow and scale their business and their direct impact in making the world a better place. Go ahead and go to the next slide. This is me again. Please follow me on Twitter and email me if you have any questions. I love to chat and get more information about what everyone else is doing. A little bit on my educational background. I have my undergrad is in international business, and I have a MBA in entrepreneurship. I also have certifications in real estate, world trade, women's and ethnic studies, and political policy. So I'm very well versed, and this is a very well-rounded concept for a CEO, but don't feel that you need to go that strong. I'm also an academic addict is what I call myself. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So we're going to just piggyback off of Crystal and business planning. And within the first few years of your business, especially the first 18 months to 2 years, it's a little chaotic. And during that time, the biggest things to remember is you're going to be doing a ton of research and have a tiny plan, because that plan's going to change. But like this picture says, don't let this be you. And I love this picture because this talks about really understanding what the end in mind means. And when you start a business, you have to understand what your end goal is, not only in your business, but also what your end goal is in life, to make sure you're going in the right direction. Because you'll start building and you'll get to a point where you're just like they are, asking where, we should have built something else. Go ahead and go on to the next slide. So why is this important for social enterprise? Well, with a social enterprise or a mission-driven business, and for really a company that if you have plans to scale or grow fairly large, you have to have a very strong foundation and plan. And one of the items, as Crystal mentioned, is having your budget and understanding what your run rate is, and what and within that budget, you need to make sure you're setting aside specific sets of funds for consulting, education, and self-awareness. What I've seen as women is they'll definitely go heavy on the education and self-awareness, but as many women like to do, we love to do everything on our own, and we don't actually put money aside for consultants that specialize. That is so important in those first few years, and it's a big differentiator between staying small and actually being able to scale, and then of course being successful. You really have to understand that you cannot do it alone, and you have to have a working business plan. Now, this is not the full 30-page business plan that you may be getting sold on. This is a small 2-page business plan that is going to change because your product, your services, and how you sell it will change, no doubt about it, as you get information and research from your target market. So in that, make sure your working business plan has a long-term vision and mission, along with your 12-month goals broken down into 3-month to-do lists and 1-month to-do lists to achieve those goals. So why is this important? And what's the next big step? And that is understanding your big why, or understanding your purpose and your mission. So in a purpose or a mission-driven business, you will need to really understand and be self-aware of what is important and what your overall purpose is, so that you can really connect that to the mission of the business. So we're talking a lot about mission-driven and purpose-driven business and what that really is. And the next slide, Crystal, will talk a little bit about that. So a social enterprise or a mission-driven business is a business that was created with a revenue-generating leg, but is there to solve social and environmental injustices. And those injustices are definitely related to usually a personal purpose or big why that's happened or you've experienced in your life where you've gone and you said, I want to go conquer the world now, and I want to do it through this mission-driven business. The positive about a mission-driven business or a social enterprise is that it is a self-sustaining entity where on a nonprofit side you're asking for donations or grant money. This allows you to be self-sustaining within the core of your business. And it also allows you to create unique and innovative ways to solve the biggest challenges in the world. And by solving these large challenges, those are really good sellable items because those are need items versus want items. So people need these services, need these solutions, and then they will have to pay for them. And that really creates a long-term strategy. And then also they allow you to scale. And scalability and growth are two separate items. When we talk about scalability, we're really talking about expanding upward, expanding nationally, internationally, really scaling the business. Growth is just a way of saying that you're growing your revenues, and you're not growing with scalability, you're growing additional revenue streams and really leveraging your business. So that overall is what a social enterprise is, or if you hear purpose-driven business, mission-driven business, conscious business, all those are different terms for a social enterprise. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So within a social enterprise or a mission-driven business, it's even more important to have a strong foundation and strategy because you are solving problems and you need to know how to do that, but you also really have to have yourself together. It's not like a widget where you can make a widget and then just sell it in a chaotic form and then start building the foundation. You really have to start with that foundation. And each one of these categories that you need to understand are really things that you need to be diving into, having a plan, and researching and researching and researching. Because you have to understand who your market is, what you're doing, and where you're going. So when you look at these 8 categories, this is a framework that we use within our company. But within this framework, each one of these categories, understanding your purpose and creating the culture of what your company looks like, that's important even for the sole entrepreneur who is going in. You have to really define what your culture is going to be, the culture of your clients coming in, how you want the world to view you and your business. You have to really have your governance together. That's your risk mitigation, your policies and procedures, your systems and processes. You have to understand everything there is to know about your client, from where they're going to be eating, how much they spend, where they live, how they think and feel, because that's going to make you be able to sell to them. You have to understand the value that your service is bringing to the community. With a mission-driven business, it's easy because your whole purpose of your business is to bring value or to solve some issue. So it brings a little bit of an easier time in doing that, as well as an easier way to brand. But you still have to have your aligned branding and make sure you're showing up to the world in a systemized, clear way. In the mission-driven business, social enterprise is an extra avenue where you're understanding the impact that you're creating in the world, and you're able to showcase that impact and set goals around that impact. And then, of course, can you scale? Are you even a scalable company? How are you hiring, and how are you training? So those are all categories that you're going to want to make sure you're centering on. And this is for any business as well, minus the social enterprise if you're just a standard for-profit business. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So since I have a shorter amount of time, I'm going to leave you with a few main tidbits. To be successful, to get past that 50% mark for small businesses, and then the 90% of businesses that fail within the startup. In startup, I usually say around up to 18 months to 2 years is usually when you hang out in startup mode, or when you break even and stay consistently, you know, several months is a good lead over that break even. So to be able to do that, two main things: you need to be focused, and that's going to happen with a plan, a well-written plan and a long-term strategy. And you have to be prepared to really have grit. You, just like it was mentioned, you have to ask 75 people to get 15 sales. And that's just not talking to people. That's like asking, say, are you going to buy my service? And you have to be willing to understand that there's going to be people that have to say no. Not because your service is bad necessarily, just maybe they just don't need it now, they don't have the money for it, or they're not your ideal client. And you'll understand all that through understanding your market. As business owners, we tend to sell things that we want to sell, our trade. I mean, it's something we love or we're passionate about. But the market does not buy based on what we love. They buy based on what they love, what they want. And you really have to take a long-term view or a bigger view of really what the community wants. So just to leave you with a few extra things, my main things for a thriving entrepreneur in general, and this is for everybody, is to know yourself and your purpose in life. Really have a badass network and community. You need to know people. I like to give my clients, or say to my clients, you need to become popular now, just like you're in high school. You need to go hang out with the popular kids and talk to the popular kids. And then really loving to learn, love to research and read. And you really need to love to do that for fun, because you're going to be doing a lot of that in your first 5 years of business. Make sure you're proactive, not reactive. So all this planning is preparing yourself for when something does happen. Reactive is when you are so busy and you're like, oh my God, I have to hire a person today. And what happens is you're in desperate mode and you end up hiring the wrong person, and then you end up having to fire, which everyone hates to do. So be proactive in that you know if you're going to be hiring or not, if you plan on growing, if you plan on staying a sole entrepreneur for the rest of your business or a small business, and really reflect on that. And then make sure that you have some stamina and you're stubborn. Well, I call it stubbornness because I'm just stubborn, and other people call it stamina. But you need to really have that grit. And then make sure you have just one minimal viable product. You need to make sure you can sell that one minimum viable product. And before you even start adding other items on there, you have to sell that one. And then make sure that you know how to delegate and love systems. You have to create systems to be able to delegate. And with women, it's hard for us to delegate, especially for me. I have a very hard time. So role play delegation, that's what I like to do. I go with others and role play it and get comfortable in delegating. So I'm going to send out these there's a startup checklist and a list of important questions you need to ask yourself. And then don't hesitate to schedule a 15-minute business review if you're wanting to go on the business route. Sovenco does offer a free business review to really find out where you're at in your company and what that looks like in becoming a mission